Hi again. Hi, peace. Well, I'm going to talk again about the pharmaceutical companies and medical companies that make money. But this is mostly about the pharmaceutical companies, and maybe I'm going to talk a little bit about marijuana and how that all ties in. Any drug that has an X, Y, or Z, or even an O in the name, you want to be a little bit careful of, because those are names that the mooks give to the pharmaceuticals, because then they know that those are the ones for them to stay away from, because the ingredients are oftentimes a poison. And like I'm going to say Paxil and Zoloft, and there are quite a few others that are antidepressants, but they're what most of the antidepressants do is they shorten your memory, so it keeps breaking up your memory, and so you can't physically dwell on what it is that's making you depressed. They also make you tired, and there are also very many side effects. They put in, all the pharmaceutical companies that I know of put in silica and talc and alum. If you see any silica, is a lot of times in the description, like that it'll be a longer word, but silica will be somewhere in there. That's something that dries out your membranes and gives you dry mouth. I mean, that's the overt indication. That same thing with alum, and a lot of times it'll be aluminum, this or that. That's a poison, and also dries out your body is 98% water, so you need to have that water. And if the silica or the talc or the alum is added to as the other ingredients to almost every pharmaceutical, then you are piling in drugs that make your body lose water. And without the water, your kidneys don't work right, your liver doesn't work right. All these things, then they can later on, of course, make a lot of money when you have to go to the hospital with kidney failure or a liver failure. And that's a money maker. So that's why they do it. So let me talk a little bit about marijuana. I have been a proponent of legalization of marijuana since I found out that marijuana is much better for you than alcohol. It doesn't ruin your liver, and it doesn't ruin your optic nerve, and it doesn't really ruin your judgment. It impairs it. Sometimes it might slow it down. Sometimes people feel like it gets speeded up, but it's nothing compared to alcohol. So the reason why marijuana was illegal, they made it illegal, I think, when I was a child, because it has no real side effects, and it has very many health benefits. Like, it is an antidepressant with no side effects. And the reason why the drug companies didn't want it legalized was they couldn't make money on it, and it didn't lead to any other illnesses, so they couldn't make money on that. So they kept it illegal until they found a way to hybridize the marijuana, or add additives and chemicals and GMO and all that, so that the resulting product is more hazardous to your health and will give you some long-acting, long-lasting side effects. And that's why now it is becoming legal in certain states, because they have perfected, the drug companies have perfected a way to fertilize, a lot of times with the chemicals in the fertilizer and the way they GMO'd the marijuana. The two together are very bad for you. And that's why marijuana used to be so, is not nearly as potent. The stuff nowadays isn't really marijuana anymore. It's been mutilated by the drug companies, because they want to have sick people, because they want to, manage your life, have control of your life. So I also wanted to talk about the suspension liquid. Now, the marijuana is coming in tinctures and pills and things that are not. I think there's probably no marijuana in some of those things, but I'm particularly worried about that suspension liquid. A long time ago, I directed a movie called Better Off Dead. It's a cute movie. It's with John Cusack. If you're, if it's on Showtime or something, it's worth a watch. Anyway, it's just a silly movie. In the movie, the mother is supposed to be a terrible cook. So at one point, she dishes out this glop, and I had them make it even thicker, and we put a string on it and pulled it kind of off the plate. Just bizarre. Because Better Off Dead, I just figured you want to put as many very, very weird things in it as you can. But I want to talk about that product. They sell that product under the name pectin, fast-acting pectin, instant pectin, to add to your fruit so that you can have jelly right away. It'll thicken it up. Surprise, surprise. But they also sell it as tapioca. They sell it, they put it in food. They call it pretty much anything they want to be able to put it in the food without the FDA stopping them. But it is the stuff that, if you remember back with McDonald's and the pink slime that they said that they stopped putting in their burgers, it makes our bodies develop a viscous fat, a very thick fat that is not part of our bodies, so we can't metabolize it away. In other words, we can't diet it away, and we can't exercise it away. They, over the years, put it in my stomach, and so I have this whole layer of fat that's not even my fat. So I used to really die. I mean, if you look at some of my movies, I'm really thin. I'm super thin, but I have that fat belly. Anyway, so that stuff, and it also gives you heart disease. It gives you diabetes, which is a gold mine for them, and it gives you cancer. So the suspension liquid that now there's a marijuana tincture that you can get, and it's in a suspension liquid. The suspension liquid itself is poison, basically. So it will eventually, I mean, like if you did a steady diet of that stuff, you'd get fatter and you'd get sicker and sicker. It's a real catch-22, but that is the way the pharmaceutical companies and now the medical companies and of course the insurance companies rule the world by keeping everybody sick and making them dependent on the pharmaceutical companies. And the like if you read the side effects to most of the pharmaceuticals, it will say all these side effects. Also read how in the blind test, there'll be a blind placebo group and the group that took the actual drug. Read those statistics, because a lot of times they're even. It's like say 60% of the placebo group felt relief taking this drug, and of course it wasn't a drug, it was just cardboard, basically. While 61% of the group who took the drug did better with the drug. Well, honey, that is neck and neck. That is even. That you will be taught, and the thing of it is, they also own the doctors. They own the medical schools, so that they will tell that they teach the doctor that you have to do this or that, and you have to give this or that kind of test if the patient presents with these symptoms. But the fact is, the only reason why they give the certain tests a lot of times is because the medical group that they belong to makes a whole lot of money on those tests. Those tests should be, they're like I told you, I had an MRI of my spine about 6 years ago, and my copay was over $1,000. My copay. So we're talking about $9,000 for MRI. That's insane. I mean, there's no excuse for that. None. Those machines are expensive, but come on. Once they own that machine, there's really no excuse for the amount of money that they charge. And the reason why they send you for an MRI instead of an X-ray is because they make $9,000 for the MRI and $147 for the X-ray. Which one would you choose? The doctors are taught to prescribe those tests if the patient presents with this problem. That's what they're taught, so that's what they do, because they trust their medical school. And I have talked to doctors who had training outside of the United States. When they get here and they have to get recertified, that's when they learn all these hocus pocus that goes on in our medical societies, and they don't like it. And a lot of times, if you get a doctor from, well, I shouldn't say this, but even if you don't, if you have the control, and you can say, I don't want to go for all those tests. Is there another test? Now, there is a test, like, for instance, called a sedimentation rate. It is just a blood test, and it's very good at finding cancer anywhere in the body. your blood has a, a sediment, or those little floaty things, and your blood is suspended, and those things drop to the bottom at a certain rate because they're heavier than the rest of the blood. And somehow that once you have cancer in your body, then that rate, it becomes something different. And that is, let's say, because they have to spin the blood and they have to whatever, let's say it costs $100 for that blood test. It's a blood test that really everybody should just have, like, every year as part of their physical, or every 5 years, because it would help. I should actually ask for that next time. So that is about it. The suspension liquid is poison. The XYZ and O. Oh, hey, if your prescription has a few XYZs and O's in them, like Zoloft there, ZOLOFT, that's got three out of 6 letters are satanic symbols for bad stuff. Stay away. Now Paxil only has the 1, the X, but I might as well say, this is along the same lines, that the only true antidepressant is something called ecstasy, which is a party drug, and people take it in very high doses, but in low doses, it is the only one that actually counteracts depression, makes you actually happier. As I said, these other antidepressants, they basically just keep breaking up your memory so that you can't concentrate on what it is that's making you depressed. Whereas ecstasy makes you happy, and that's a huge difference. It's all the difference. The other ones really aren't antidepressants. They just screw you up even more. They make me more depressed. The doctors are always, well, what you've been through, you should be on antidepressants. Well, no, they really don't. All they do for me is they make me stupid, and that makes me more upset. So actually, they're more upsetting. So this is what I think what we have to lobby for is you want to get the original marijuana that grew in the fields. When I was younger, you could pick it in the fields and get that back to the non-GMO brand. And we don't want it filtered in with chemicals, which will be called pesticides, because those are going to be poison, and you don't want to smoke that and get that in your lungs. So that's another thing. Then you can still get the lung cancer now, where before marijuana didn't, like I said, it didn't have any side effect. And they tested that a million different ways, and they couldn't find anything that it did. But now, with the additives and the pesticides and whatnot, it is bad for your lungs, just as bad as cigarettes. Cigarettes, while I'm on the subject, if it's the combination of the fertilizers, the chemical fertilizers that they use, and the pesticides, and something that they spray on the leaves, the tobacco leaves, after it's harvested, they spray this stuff on the tobacco leaves, and the combination of the three chemicals is what gives you lung cancer, not tobacco. If you were to grow your own tobacco without the recommended chemicals, you would be able to smoke cigarettes without, hurting your lungs, without getting cancer. Think about it. The American Indians, the Native Americans, smoked tobacco as part of their rituals, and they didn't have cancer. So let's say they were doing that for 1,000 years before we figured out we can put this stuff on it that would give you cancer. And why do they do that? For the medical community to make money. They make a lot of money on cancer, a ton of money. Cancer treatments are basically almost free. Like if you go to the pharmacy and you buy hydrogen peroxide, that whole quart is 99 cents, and that's basically what you get when you get chemotherapy. Only they add stuff into it to make you lose your hair. And you're going to say, oh, she's nuts now. She's just crazy. But they do. They do. Because then you'll have to buy wigs. And there's all these offshoot industries from keeping you sick, keeps a lot of people in jobs, and they like having the position of power where you're in their hands. Then you're in a position where you don't want to be. You're vulnerable, so they can charge you whatever they want. And I really do believe that if you can find, and they also get, out and out as punishment, they can kill somebody by injecting anything that's a carcinogen. The preferred method is stuff called liquid smoke that you can buy in your supermarket. That is a pure carcinogen, and they will just inject that, a couple of cc's of liquid smoke into your pancreas, your lung, or your uterus, or your ovary, or your prostate, anything they can easily get a needle into. And then 6 months later, you're going to have cancer. But since it's localized, when it's localized, you should be able to cut that cancer out and then stay on a healthy diet and monitor yourself. It shouldn't be a devastating disease that bankrupts people. It's the most horrible thought. When Rita told me all this, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe her. I didn't believe that anybody could be that cruel and heartless, and I couldn't believe it. But no, it's been, we had that conversation in 2003, so it's been 14 years. Yeah. And I've seen it happen over and over again. I've seen people who died of cancer that were on their enemy list. So it's true, folks, and I hate to tell you, but it is true. And so marijuana, I don't know, I'm sure there's something else, but there you have it. So really don't get too freaked out because Trump will be able to take away the medical insurance. But don't get too freaked out, because, and go to your grandma and see what they used to do. Now, there wasn't so much cancer when we were growing up. So you really do have to read your labels, and you have to, and like I said before, anything with the word gum in it, anything with the word silica or any part of that in there, anything with the word alum, ALUM, as in aluminum phosphate. Phosphates are bad for you too. Talc. I can't. Talc is the one that really does me, and I can't handle that. But they're in your foods. You have to go back to making your own food, and you have to insist on the non-GMO food, because we don't metabolize food that's been genetically modified. We don't. So we metabolize it a certain way, but not the way God made it. And speaking of God and GMO, I would say that for the people who are homophobes, it isn't that God... See, the Bible wasn't written by God, but it says something about the abomination of the flesh. Is all I can find in the Bible, just stuff like that. But that is the GMO. That is not homosexual behavior. That is genetically modified organisms. We're the ones who are genetically modifying. We are the ones who are abominating the flesh of the vegetables and even the animals that we have, and we are down this road of destruction. Fun. But that's neither here nor there. So be good to your children. Think peace. Rise up.